Please read and follow all safety cautions as listed by your saw's manufacturer. Let's recap again. To cut ceramic tile, we can use a scribe and snap method. However, when it comes to stone, stone must be cut with a diamond blade. It's the only way to do it. We cannot scribe this and try to snap it, or it's going to shatter. Now, we can cut either wet or dry. The preferred method to cut stone is, of course, with a wet blade or a wet saw. You can purchase a very inexpensive wet saw this size for anywhere from $50 on up to $100. Now, I do have a bigger saw I'll show in a little bit later video, but for all intent and purposes, a small DIYer needs nothing more than one of these. I've had this thing probably for about 5-6 years, and as you'll see, it's been used hard. It doesn't owe me much. So what we're going to go through first here is we're going to go through blades and how to install blades. This is a wide curved blade and this is a narrow curved blade. And note that they have two different sized holes in them. One of them is 5/8 and the larger blade here has a 7/8 inch hole. Most of these small saws will accept both blades. And the way they do that is they do that by turning the little adapter inside. And one side of the adapter will fit this 7/8 inch blade, and the other side of the adapter laying flat, it will accept the 3/8 inch or 5/8 inch blade. So most saws will accept both size holes. On this blade I'm putting in, the direction is like this. It's counterclockwise. My saw spins clockwise. The blade needs to be installed with this side up because of the direction. Next, there's a collar goes on the outside of that. And on top our collar goes the nut, of course. It says a backward thread on it. All I have to do is learn how to turn left. And we'll tighten it up with a standard wrench. I'm simply going to take a hold of the blade. The wrench just fits in there. I'm going to take a hold of the blade and spin it until I get it tight. So the wrench, or the blade, is indeed installed. Now, there's also a water guard goes on the inside of this, and this will depend on the kind of saw that you're using. This one simply goes in and screws across. I'll show it to you here in a second. It fits in here and keeps the water from splashing all over and splashing out. By the way, if you use this wide curved blade, this big diamond blade here, this thing throws a lot of water, so you're going to be constantly putting water into the saw. I took the little mitre block and I put a piece of plywood on it. And I did this so that when I bring the tile into the blade, I got both parts of that tile supported so that it doesn't break. And you're going to see me use this a little bit later, this block, in order to index tile when I make my little cuts. All of these saws are going to have a fence on them. Well, over the years I lost the fence for this saw. So I made one out of an old towel rack that simply screws down with the wing nuts that I put on this. It works quite well, serves the purpose, and actually I think it's easier to adjust my homemade fence than what it was to adjust the one that was on there. And it has a splash shield that you're going to find you'll always want to have down. I'm going to put some water in this and I fill it right up to the top. What I'm going to do is a very narrow cut and explain a couple of things to you. So I'm going to set my ruler on here and we're going to make a 1/2 inch cut. Some rulers do not start at dead zero, like this one for example. It has this little 1/8 inch difference between zero, or where you would start your measurement, to the end of the ruler. A ruler, to make dead flat measurements starting from zero, would be like this one. So I could take this ruler and put it up against something and I could measure from 0 to 1 inch. If you don't have a ruler that starts at dead zero, you can always rely on your combination square because that's built the same way that this ruler is. It starts at dead zero on this end. I want to measure both the front and the back to make sure I have it dead on. A word of caution: when you're setting the saw up, always have it unplugged. Adjust the water guard down so it's as flush to the workpiece as possible. Marble, especially hard marbled pieces like this piece of black marble, break very easily. So one of the tricks of the trade when you're cutting marble is you always want to kick the back side first. First of all, I'm going to turn the tile on its back side, and I'm going to kick a little notch on here. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to turn it back around. Then, when I get to the end of the cut, I'm not going to have any breakout on this side. Another thing I want you to watch is I'm going to feed this through here very slowly. You want to let the blade do the cutting. I'll do my backside kick. That's good enough. Again, go slow enough. I should have had a little push stick to push that through. So the main thing that's happened here is I got a nice piece. I've got a decent edge here. The faster you go, the more it's going to chip out on this top edge. You want to try to eliminate that. Remember I talked about kicking the back side out. This piece of tile was cut without making my back kick first, and a piece broke out of it. You can, if you want to, take and put some crazy glue on that broken tile that you break and glue that back together. I can set my mitre block at a 45-degree angle and make 45-degree cuts on any tile. In this case, I have this piece of wood on here, so I'm going to have to raise up, and the wood's on there to lend support to this little piece to keep it from breaking. I'm going to have to put my fence up and move this back to where my cut line is. I already have a cut line in this block of wood, so I know where to move my tile up to. Again, you want to cut slowly when you do this. I got just a little bit of breakout on this piece. Of course, that's not the piece I want, this is. So there is just a little bit of breakout on that very edge, even though I had it backed up with the wood. To build a 45-degree on the edge of a piece of tile, most of these saws will allow you to adjust the slant of the bed itself to make that 45-degree cut. Now I'm going to be pretty tight on this splash shield here, so I'm going to have to move this out. I'm just going to force it out a little bit to give me a little bit more room on there, and I'm going to let that flop down on top of the tile. Now another thing that I might want to do here is to give that tile a place to rest as I run it through, so we can take and run this fence right up next to the blade. And this is going to allow me to put that cut completely down the side of a piece of tile. This is a pretty nice cut. It does take some skill to make that cut, so practice on some old pieces before you do your good stuff. I know some professionals that always have one of these little saws in the trunk of their car because it's easy to set up and it's easy to transport. And it'll do most anything the big saws are. The only problem you have here is when you get into the huge pieces of tile that you need to cut a whole bunch of them at one time. If I needed to slice this tile, for example, through the middle, or you're going to see me slice 5-inch slices off of this, I do want to use a bigger saw. However, it can be done on this one, and this is the one I'll use for this project, at least for most of it.